Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our reaction and review for The Handmaid's Tale Season 6, Episode 5. This episode is titled Janine, and I want to start this with a mea culpa to everybody out there. I know I inspired a lot of fear last week standing atop the Janine's Gonna Die
Oh, you
pedestal
did.
and talking about Criminal Minds episodes. And anytime they're named after a character, something terrible is gonna happen. Janine's not dead. Janine lives. I also still don't really know why this episode was actually named Janine at this point.
Yeah, I am not really sure either. I mean, she definitely had some big moments in it,
Yeah.
but there were much bigger moments from some of the other characters in this episode. Yeah, it feels like this was a big misdirect. It made a lot of us very worried.
Mhm.
I know that in the overall trailer for the season that there's, other shots of her in that trailer, but for me, I've just kind of learned over the years that trailers sometimes give us, all the correct answers,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's the blacklist where the main character is missing for 6 weeks, but she's in the trailer every single week. And I'm like, okay, cool. She's coming back this week. Nope. So I just kind of sometimes am a little bit wary of that.
I just get a little bit of trailer blindness sometimes where if something happens to a character I really, really like, and I've said this, Jean's my favorite character, I kind of just
Yes.
forget that the trailer exists. And I'm just sort of like, well, maybe if they're going to include that, they'll find a way to magically include X, Y, Z, and three other things in this episode, and Janine's still going to die. So I
I
still
know.
had that mindset going into all of it. And I guess from that vantage point alone, I'm very, very happy because Janine lives to see another day and she
Mhm.
continues to be a hero. She's not going to leave Jezebel's herself. She wants to make sure that they all get out.
Of course, Janine cares about people. That is
Yes.
why she is one of my absolute favorite characters. I root for her so hard. I don't know what happens to her in the books. Again, no book spoilers, please, for
Yeah.
Handmaid's Tale, for Testaments, for any of it. Neither of us have read the books, and sometimes things change anyways. So, just leave them out of the comments. But I really hope for the best for her. I think we're all really rooting for her after what she's gone through pre-Gilead and after Gilead.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about with Janine, with June, obviously, with Commander Lawrence. This may be one of the biggest Lawrence episodes we have seen
Yeah.
in quite some time. We're going to get into all of it, but before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we're going to be here with more coverage of The Handmaid's Tale all season long, previews, theories, all sorts of good stuff there. And we are also in the midst here of covering The Last of Us. And also this week on Netflix is the premiere of You Season 5, which is especially important. We're speaking of Janine here. Madeline Brewer, who plays Janine, has a big role on this upcoming season of You.
Yeah, and you don't want to miss that. So hit that subscribe button. Also follow us over on our Patreon. Coming up over there, we are going to be covering exclusively Criminal Minds Evolution. The new season's going to be coming up, and Murderbot, which is a brand new show on Apple TV Plus and is the only place that you can get those video reviews. So thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed.
Thank you guys so much. We really, really appreciate that.
Okay, so the big plan, we've got June, we've got Moira, they're at Jezebel's, they're doing, recon to try to figure out, oh, who's going to be here at what time, whatever. Let's get Janine to warn the girls to get them out of there. Let's, figure out the plan. My biggest issue had been that you have two recognizable women that are going in to do this mission. You have Moira, who was at Jezebel's for a very long time. Now, I understand that we're in this world where commanders don't see women as anything, and they're kind of like, oh, they're all just these faceless women. But we also have seen one of the commanders there who's like, Janine is my girl, and he would recognize her in a second with the eye patch, without the eye patch. It doesn't matter. He's very protective over her and would recognize her face. And I feel like there would be guards there that would recognize Moira because she had worked there for so long. But more than that, I felt that June was going to be recognized. She's easily the most wanted person in Gilead after some of the things she's done, the plane filled with children, all of it. I don't know how she's not on the wall, but she had escaped. But I feel like she would be the most wanted person, that the guards would know what she looks like. If you ever see her, bring her in. The eyes would know, the guardians would know, everybody would know. So when it was like, oh, well, the Marthas will have their faces covered, I was like, all right.
Yeah.
I'll buy this. Let's go. But the minute that they were in the room with the guard and the guard didn't recognize either of them, I had my beef hat's on now. I had
All
a
right.
really hard time believing that. That he just happened to be the one person who doesn't know who June is or has never seen Moira before, that he's brand new, and they just happened to get that one person. And I feel like it could have been fixed, that before he was going to do what he was going to do to them, that if he had just recognized them and been like, oh, it's the famous June. All right, you know what? Before I turn you in, this is going to happen. Something that makes it feel a little more believable.
I think that would have actually been more effective, in obviously a really terrible way, but still really, really effective, because these commanders, these guards, like no matter who you're talking about in Gilead, they all sort of really enjoy this idea of having power. And clearly they all like to boast. So it's this idea that he would have, the famous June or Moira trapped in this sort of unspeakable position. It would make sense then that character would want to boast about it. Like I've never had an altogether easy grasp on the notoriety of June in Gilead. And I think a part of it is obviously everything that you're spelling out already. I think it's also that we basically just tend to get small segments of this world all at once. We never really get like that expansive a view of everybody.
I think it's also, we saw June up in Canada, where Gilead is much smaller and they're just kind of coming around, getting attacked, getting run over. I'm like, okay, if she is this famous that this is going to happen to her in Canada, and I know that they have more like news and you can learn about whatever up there, that people would have a better idea of who she is. I just feel like in Gilead, with the things that she has done, especially that plane filled with children, that she would be the number one enemy down there, that everyone would be like, this is a picture of June. If you see her down here, you got to bring her in.
I think what was pretty clear going into this whole plan, regardless of anything else, is just this idea of like, okay, the odds of all of this working for them are very, very slim, just because, yeah, we would assume that they would be recognizable. Beyond all of that, it's a very small number of them. You've got June and Moira, you've got Luke doing his thing on the outside, but then you've got all of these commanders. Yeah, Janine is in there, but she doesn't exactly have a lot of power, and so you're really up against it. And I think what makes this story so interesting is that, yeah, we all want them to be successful, but we're only in episode 5. They're not going to change Gilead overnight. And I don't mean this in a way that I'm rooting for them to fail or anything, but I'm glad that nothing went fully according to plan here, because there's still a lot left this season. And beyond all of that, the end of this episode in particular with Jude, Moira, and Commander Lawrence, this feels like this is going to be the way that they're really going to be able to push forward from here on out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that during this whole, thing that they were doing, trying to figure it out before they actually come in and take out Jezebel's, that they made some mistakes. And the biggest mistake was Moira and June spending as much time as they did in that room. Like, they needed to just get moving. But because they had some stuff to hash out and it just happened to be at that time, I think it was a really powerful, very disturbing, very grim conversation of them talking about, like, oh, this happened to me every day here. Oh,
Yeah.
well, it only happened to me once a month. So, my trauma is not as important as your trauma. For the two of them to kind of sit back and really realize that they are comparing each other's trauma when it's all bad.
It was an amazing scene. I think it's one of the best scenes of this whole episode, just because, I've certainly felt over the first part of this season that June is sort of prioritizing her own trauma and her own pain over everybody else. And I don't mean that in a way that like, oh, she's so selfish, she's so terrible. I mean that more in a way of when you've gone through the stuff that June has gone through,
Hmm.
I think it's really hard to psychologically look at and understand what other people are doing and think outside of yourself. And I think that's why she's been so intent on this idea that, okay, I have to be the hero. I have to be the one that saves this because nobody else is going to fully understand. But I appreciate this idea of her being directly confronted with all of this because this is the only way that she's going to be able to understand that if they're going to do this, they have to really work together. And she has to remind herself that, okay, Moira has every reason to want this as badly as I do, and she is just as capable as I am. It doesn't really matter who was the one who manages to land the final metaphorical blow. We're doing this together. We can do this.
And they really needed to come together because even in the scene with Janine where June is like, oh no, you got to come with us right now. And she's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that. And even Moira's like, oh my God, if Janine goes missing, like the whole plan goes goodbye. And Janine's like, yeah, my motivations are I don't want to leave the other women that are here. And to have then that conversation afterwards with Moira and June, where it's kind of like, okay, cool. I look like the bad guy now because I'm not here to be like, let's just rescue, just Janine right now. That I look like I don't care about her and she's my friend too.
Yeah, it was a really important meeting of the minds. It's a scene that I really grateful happened. I'm really grateful that we just had all these reunions in general. And I know The Handmaid's Tale is a bleak show, but seeing Janine actually around June again after all this time, like it did make my heart sing a little bit. Despite everything else that's going on, that's just absolutely terrible.
Okay, tinfoil hat. I
Yeah.
mentioned this, I think, in the last review, is that I think that June needs to get captured to be brought to New Bethlehem and have her part of the group. The whole crew needs to be together. It is the last season of this show where she would be like the pinnacle of New Bethlehem to get people to come back. You've got, Commander Lawrence, who's, spearheading this thing. You have Serena, who's come back, who's a person who's sort of like put everything together with Gilead and now looks like she's going to marry Commander Wharton. Hi, Commander Wharton. So it's all coming together perfectly. But what a boon it would be for them to have June come back and be part of this society of all the people, famous June, who was part of this rebellion, but now she's part of New Bethlehem and she is back and she is participating. That looks really good for New Bethlehem. And with where Lawrence is right now, that he has learned that it's like, okay, New Bethlehem is what we thought it was. It's sort of this carrot to be like, okay, we're going to get back our people. We're going to get the diplomats of other countries to buy into what we're buying in. 3-4 years, we'll close it up. It'll be gone. Gilead will be back. We'll close the borders. We'll be stronger than ever. And we'll put Lawrence up on the wall. And Lawrence is like, oh, cool. So this is what's going on. For me, it feels like when he got June in the trunk, and she's like, oh, can you take me to the border? And he just slams the trunk. This is his opportunity. And he's always lived in this gray area of how can I kind of get out of this? Now that he knows that his fate is to be put on the wall and everything is just going to be dismantled, there was this dread that came over me where I was just like, he's going to use June to sort of bring things up so that they're almost like a ball that's rolling so far out of control that New Bethlehem can't be shut down, that it's almost like it's bigger than what they thought it was going to be, instead of this one little thing that was the carrot, that now it's just out of control. There's no stopping it.
Okay, Commander Lawrence, it's time that we have a talk here. So, have a seat and we're going to try to speak some truths to you. Okay.
Good luck with that.
I'm going to do my best. I'm probably not going to win, but I'm going to do my best. Okay, Commander Lawrence, you learned through your little spy session everything that just lined out here. No matter what you do with New Bethlehem, because of Commander Jonah Ryan and everybody. By the way, I now know that Commander Jonah Ryan's actual name is Captain Bell, which I was not aware of last week. I was just going to
Yeah.
keep calling him that. But all these other terrible commanders, they don't want you. They don't care about your New Bethlehem. Like, they don't care about all of that. This is all just a ruse. Like, we don't know exactly where Wharton sits in all this. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But for right now, Commander Lawrence knows this, and you have tried to toe this line. You have been at times rather cowardly with towing this line, that you don't want to do anything that's going to really put yourself on the line, even if you don't like what Gilead has turned into, blah, 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 blah. Okay, it's time to save it, Commander Lawrence. You must use them to destroy Gilead, because if you do anything else, I think it's always going to end with the same conclusion, you ending up on the wall. I just don't know what other possibility there is for you at this point. Yeah, you might die if you end up trying to save Gilead or stop whatever is going on here, but you're going to die anyway. What do you want your legacy to be? Like, this is the question that if I was staring him in the face, I would just be looking at him very uncomfortably and just saying this to him time and time again, because he clearly cares about it.
Yeah, for Lawrence, it's always just felt like it's about self-preservation. He doesn't really agree with everything that's going on, but this is the world that he lives in.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, yeah, I'm a commander. I do have privilege here. I'm able to kind of live my life the way I want. But at the same time, he has also been put in his place when everything happened with Fred and June and having to go to the room to perform the ceremony. He knows he only has so much power, and that their commanders do keep other commanders in line as well. Like, nobody is safe here. And even though he's gotten this promotion, he's one of the high
Yeah.
commanders now. He knows he's set up to be a patsy at this point. Like, nobody is here on his side. Nobody's going to help him. He is by himself. And that's why him having June and Moira, but more specifically June, the famous June, he has a bit of power now, depending on how he uses the situation. Just bringing her back to the border is not going to help him.
No.
And he's a desperate man.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to bring in Mike Ehrmantraut, who's going to tell you,
Oh.
Commander Lawrence, no half measures. You can't half measure this situation. Here's what I think you should do. Use June, use Moira, sit them down, have a conversation with them. Tell them that you're going to use New Bethlehem from here on out to house Mayday, to bring in Mayday in secret to New Bethlehem. That you're going to continue this recruiting mission where you're recruiting in people, you're bringing them back, but then in secret, you're training them to help destroy Gilead from the inside. And you can kind of make it into this real Trojan horse where it's like, okay, if Commander Jonah Ryan and all these other terrible people are just like, we're going to try to use this to eventually destroy New Bethlehem, just give them the reverse Uno card and be like, okay, well, we're going to use this to destroy you. It's your best option. I say this as somebody who has no experience in any of this, but you know what? It can work.
Yeah, and I mean, there's also the Serena of it all, right? Like,
Yeah.
where is she gonna actually end up landing? Like, Wharton hasn't come out and been like, I'm an evildoer, but he definitely knows what's going on. There's no way that he doesn't know what's going on. I think he's always just felt having Serena by his side, the person that helped create this world, it just looks powerful for him. And it looks powerful for Gilead that once he disassembles New Bethlehem, she's stuck. And she is the face of it all. She's also Patsy, but now she's married to a high commander who disassembled everything. She's going to be even more of a villain, and she's going to be really stuck with him at this point. But it's really hard to feel sorry for her after that conversation with Lydia of just how Serena's mind works, where Lydia's talking to her about the handmaids and was kind of like, what did you think happened to the handmaids afterwards? Did you even think of them? And the answer is no. It's like, oh my God, I don't know why I'm shocked by this, because Serena is terrible She is easily the biggest villain of this show. And that's saying a lot because Fred was also on this show.
Yeah.
She is the biggest villain of the show. And it tells me she has not learned anything. She is not really moving on in any sort of big redemption arc that, it feels like the show wants her to have. She's still not thinking of them, even though she's like, oh, I opened up this fertility center up in Canada and it was so great. And now I'm going to open one here. We could move the handmaids over there. And I know Lydia's, oh yeah, okay, that seems like a good calling. But at the same time, Serena doesn't have any power to do anything. This is all
No.
nothing.
It's all just complete nonsense at this point. Like, it was a total, just real wake up call for me. And it's not like I thought Serena was going to be redeemed in the first place, because I didn't, but it was just this stone cold reminder that, okay, her not even thinking about what happened to these women shows that in the time that she's been with the Wheelers, and the time that she's gone through everything she's gone through in the past season or two, her central philosophy still has not changed. Because I feel like if you want to really establish yourself as a beacon of hope, then you're actually gonna, I don't know, put in the time, do some research, like actually spend some time legitimately thinking about it. Like, at this point, it really feels more like, oh, I'm going to name these things after me just because of the, oh, I'm helping people with fertility. It's just for your ego. It's the, Derek Zoolander school for kids who can't read good and do other things good either. It's just like you are doing something for the sake of making yourself feel like you're doing something when you don't understand or care about the meaning behind any of it.
No, she has never cared about people or the people. It was, yeah, like I said, it felt shocking when she said that, but it's absolutely true. No, I never thought about them
Yeah.
afterwards. Why would I? It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that she has really not grown.
No, like, if she had even said, I didn't think about them at the time, but I've been thinking more about them lately, or I've done some research. She didn't do any of that. She didn't do anything to make me feel like, oh, like, look at you making an active effort to change. Like, the only things you've really done is like, okay, you're back at Gilead now. Okay, you're talking to another commander. Yeah, sure, you're bringing up fertility centers, and okay, I guess you're not doing the same exact things that you were doing in season one, but it's like, yeah, I don't have any sort of feeling that she's changed. And with Commander Wharton, like, to go a little bit into what you were saying a minute ago, it's just that it is very hard to buy into this concept that he is of this high a position of power and does not know what other people are thinking about. It's something that it would actually make him into a really bad leader if he did not know what anybody else was thinking about in his ranks. It would make him sort of out of touch with his society. Like, I could buy into an idea where he was talking about, I know some other commanders want to go back to the old ways, but that's not me. But he's not saying any of that. So it feels like everything he's saying to me right now is a lie.
Absolutely. I think everything he's saying is a lie. And the thing that really stuck with me was when he went to go speak to Nick. And he was just like, oh, yeah, this thing happened on your watch where we had these guys, die, except this one guy. He
Yeah.
didn't die. And he's actually starting to talk. Like, things are going to come out. And the minute that he started talking that way, I was kind of like, he knows that Nick has been doing these types of things behind his back. He feels very confident that Nick is responsible. And it felt like he was having this conversation to really test the waters. And while Nick held his own, and of course later went and killed this guy, the fact that this guy is now dead, to me, Wharton is going to look at that and be like, okay, he took the bait. I think it's all just part of the setup.
Yeah, I think it's all an elaborate series of tests. And I think this is what makes Nick, I mean, Commander Lawrence is obviously an X factor the rest of this season for a number of pretty obvious
He always
reasons.
is.
He is just like the permanent X factor. But, Nick, you were also in a supremely important position now, because I want to believe in you. And maybe that's because of the relationship you've had with June over time. Like, I've already said, I'm Team Luke, but at the same time, like, I like what Nick is capable of. Am I still worried about whether or not he's going to do the right thing? Yes, but that's because he's got so much skin in the game at this point. He's got a lot of people he has to think about, and that's why it's harder for him in some ways to make specific moves with that in mind than even Commander Lawrence, who literally has nothing to lose at this point because he knows that they want to put him on the wall.
Commander Lawrence is really the X factor in all of this. He has June. This is a huge boon for him. He knows that he's going to end up in the wall. On
Yeah.
the wall is only a few years. Everything's going to crumble. He's the patsy, but what can he do about it? He just doesn't have enough power even as a high commander. He needs people in his corner. Who's in his corner? Nobody. Not even his wife.
I know it's a really, really hard position, but I want to take a moment here to talk about Luke because I felt bad for Luke in this episode because it's like he has his whole part in this operation. He ends up getting hurt, and then there's this moment where he's like, "Oh, he's okay," and then it's like, "Okay, he's okay." So we're just gonna forget about Luke the rest of this episode, and then Commander Lawrence is gonna take June and Moira. Like, what's happening to Luke now?
Who put Luke on this part of the mission? His wife is in there.
Yes.
His best friend is in there. Listen, if you're going to send Moira and you're going to send June in there, Luke cannot be the driver. You can't have somebody who's emotionally invested in the people that are in there. You need to have some sort of separation here so that they don't get caught trying to get these guys not caught because there's a relationship, because that's his wife. Like, Mayday feels like they do not know what they are doing.
I think here's the problem with Mayday. They're hyper ambitious, which I understand that. I fully understand their motives, and I would do the same thing. However, you need people who can kind of think things through strategically. And this is where I want to tell Mayday something. I am offering my services to Mayday as a strategic planner, as someone who plays a lot of turn-based RPGs. I feel very qualified in helping to distribute the talent you have across certain places. It's also like, it's like a bank heist. You got to have a good driver. I've talked about bank heists a lot this week, but you got to have people in the right position so that it can all work out.
Yeah, this just didn't make any sense. I understand that this is Luke's mission and that he's put this together and that's all fine. But then this is just the scouting process. Your wife is in there. Somebody else needs to drive that truck and somebody needed to sit Luke out on this one.
Yeah, no, I just want Luke to be okay. And Luke was not put in a position to succeed in this episode. He was too emotionally invested.
Yeah.
Ends up getting hurt. Like, there's all this stuff that just ends up happening to him. But okay, the last thing I have to say on all this, and once again, this is Serena. You got engaged faster than a contestant on The Bachelor in this episode. It's like, how many times have you been around Commander Wharton at this point? And I understand, like, this is probably a part of the society and all of that, and X, Y, and Z, but I'm just sitting here being like, could you guys go on a few dates first? Like, well, why did you have to say yes right now? It's probably just for the effectiveness of the story that there is this union, and she probably sees this as some sort of safety, but she's trusting in this idea that Commander Wharton is actually going to keep her safe.
Yeah, the fact that he's been romancing her, sending her flowers, dancing with her, she brought him the pie, and even the proposal where it makes it feel like she has a choice, and she kind of doesn't. I know she kind of tried to be like, oh, but what about this and that, whatever. He's like, whatever you want, whatever makes you say yes. You have a choice. We're in it together. I would never take your voice. All of it is just this smoke screen to make her feel like she actually has a choice when she doesn't have a choice, because most people don't get romance, don't get flowers, don't get a choice. It's, oh yeah, Lawrence, you don't have a wife. Naomi, you don't have a husband. That can't be a thing. So you two are the partnership.
Yeah, like, that's the realistic angle to what's going on here. And I would like to sit here and think that Serena's going to use this position of power for good things, but no.
She's just getting swept away.
No, she's just getting swept away. But I think we're set up now in a position where a lot of characters are going to be colliding in these final episodes. It should be really, really exciting. At the same point, pretty nerve-wracking because, yeah, there's not that much time left.
No, there's not that many episodes left. That's why I'm really nervous about what is going on right now, especially with June and Moira being captured by Lawrence of all people. I know they have been able to kind of sort of trust him in the past, but they don't know the position that he's in right now. And they're really desperate as well. Like, it's just a bunch of desperate people in this car driving at the moment.
It's a really compelling ending to a really solid episode. So I'm
That
excited
was
to
good.
see where we go from here. But rest assured, we will have a preview soon for what's coming up next on The Handmaid's Tale Season 6. So let us know what you thought about this episode in the comments. And also hit that subscribe button. We don't want you to miss any of our other coverage, especially, with you premiering later this week on Netflix, all Madeline Brewer, all the time this week.
Yep.
And you can support us further by joining our Patreon. That link is in the description. As Jess said, we are covering Criminal Minds Evolution and Murderbot very, very soon there. Thank you so much to our patrons. We'll see you here next time.